Chapter 1. Dr. Reed, are you certain you want to join this classified research project? I must be clear. All participants will have their names and identities erased. It's the equivalent of disappearing completely from the world. Candace Reed was silent for a moment before her voice came through, quiet but resolute. I'm certain. The person on the other end of the line sounded surprised. Very well, Dr. Reed. A specialized team will be in touch in 1 week to escort you. Thank you for your service to our country. After hanging up, Candace's gaze returned to the live broadcast on her television. On the screen, Julian Vance's handsome face was wreathed in a smile as he sat for a one-on-one interview. Mr. Vance, beyond your incredible career, our audience is dying to know about your personal life. Would you be willing to share a little? The question sent a ripple of excitement through the live studio audience. Julian remained unfazed by the noise, a slight smile playing on his lips as his right hand gently toyed with the wedding band on his left ring finger. Every gesture radiated devotion. He chuckled self-deprecatingly. My personal life? I'm afraid most would find it quite boring. After all, his tone shifted, becoming warm and proud. Besides my wife of 7 years, there is no other woman in my life. The calculated display of affection sent the audience into a frenzy. The studio erupted in cheers, and the online live chat exploded. I'm so jealous of Julian and his wife's fairy tale romance. I heard they were college sweethearts to propose. He spent a whole year taking her on a trip around the world, and he proposed in every single city they visited. And when they finally got married, he decorated the entire Eiffel Tower with roses. It was the talk of Paris. Talk of Paris? You're thinking too small, didn't you hear? Just last week, he bought her a freaking asteroid and named it Candy. Because her name is Candace, it's his pet name for her. That's not just the talk of Paris. That's making the entire universe jealous. He's literally sweetening up the cosmos for her. Everyone was gushing with envy, but Candace felt nothing. Or if she did, it was only a bitter, hollow self-mockery. Because on the very day he gave her that asteroid, she discovered Julian was cheating on her. And it wasn't a one-time thing. It had been going on for a year. That day, she had gone to his office without calling first, carrying a surprise lunch she'd prepared. But in the parking garage, she saw Julian locked in a passionate embrace with another woman. Candace's first reaction was that she was mistaken, but the familiar, husky tone of her husband's voice shattered her self-deception. Julian's voice was thick with affection. Don't cry. It's just an asteroid, okay? Tell you what, I won't go home tonight. I'll stay with you the whole night. The woman gasped in delight. Really? She leaped into his arms, wrapping her legs around his waist, her voice a seductive purr. If you say so, then don't blame me for draining you dry tonight. Let's see if you have what it takes, Julian chuckled, scooping her into his car. The license plate was a familiar 10:15 her birthday, a custom plate Julian had chosen for her. A moment later, the car began to rock rhythmically, the motion telling a story of its own. Candace stood frozen, as if struck by lightning, watching until another car's headlights swept toward her. She snapped out of her trance, stumbling out of the way, and fled like a wounded animal. Later, she learned the girl was Summer, a student from his alma mater, a full 7 years younger than him, still in college. He had hired Summer as his intern, and in the time he wasn't with Candace, he kept Summer by his side, taking her to every kind of event. His inner circle of friends had long since accepted the girl as Julian's little darling, even privately calling her the Little Missus. Everyone knew Julian Vance was having an affair. Everyone except her. Tragically, she had been blissfully living in the mirage of a perfect marriage he had so carefully constructed. Known to the world as Julian Vance's childhood sweetheart, first love, first kiss, and first wife, she was the object of envy for countless people who didn't know the truth. She had no idea that Julian had already turned her life into a joke. A bitter smile twisted Candace's lips. She called her best friend, Chloe, a high-powered attorney. I need you to draw up divorce papers. Done. Chloe paused for only a second, asking no questions before agreeing. Hanging up, Candace felt a gaping hole open in her chest, a pain so sharp it felt like it was carving out her bones. Footsteps approached the door. Honey, I'm home. Candace didn't run to greet him with a hug as she usually did. She sat on the sofa, perfectly still. Julian walked over, wrapping his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder and nuzzling her neck. His voice was gentle, cautious. "What's wrong, honey? Why aren't you talking to me? Are you upset?" Candace flinched away from his touch, creating distance. "It's nothing." Julian, oblivious to her coldness, reached out to pinch her cheek. "Sweetheart, I have something to tell you." He produced a velvet box from his suit pocket like a magician. "Surprised that jewelry you were looking at? I bought it for you. Unfortunately, the matching ring was sold separately to someone else, so I only got the earrings. But I've already had the brand source the ring from another store. It'll be here tomorrow." Candace showed no sign of surprise. She silently placed the earring box on the table. "Don't bother with the ring." Julian froze, a flicker of anxiety in his eyes. "What's wrong, honey? You don't like it?" "I don't." Julian nodded immediately, uncharacteristically obedient. "Whatever my wife says goes, we won't get it then. I'll have something custom made just for you." "No, it's not the ring," Candace thought silently. "Julian, it's not the ring I don't like anymore, it's you." Chapter 2. The next morning, Candace woke up naturally, without an alarm. It was the first time in their 7 years of marriage that she hadn't made Julian breakfast. She was surprised at her own transformation. Once love was gone, every part of him ceased to matter. She assumed Julian had already left for work, but when she went downstairs, she found him busy in the kitchen. He was wearing a cream-colored loungewear set and her floral apron, a comical sight that clashed with his usual cool, sophisticated demeanor. Seeing her barefoot, Julian's brow furrowed. He strode over and swept her up into his arms. "Why no socks? You know you'll get a stomachache." He placed her gently on a chair, then knelt before her, personally putting on her socks and slippers. "Just a minute, honey. I'll bring you breakfast." Candace wanted to say she wasn't hungry, but Julian was already gone, reappearing a moment later with a steaming spread of both American and international options. His eyes crinkled with a smile as he looked at her. "I made everything exactly to your taste. The milk is skim with just a touch of honey. The toast is sugar-free brioche, and I made sure the edges of the eggs were crispy. The pancakes have that artisanal maple syrup you like, not the generic kind. And the sausages are German-style bratwurst, grilled, not fried." He listed every detail, not seeing her preferences as picky, but as cherished quirks he had committed to memory. The housekeeper, watching from the side, sighed with admiration. "Ma'am, you are so lucky. Mr. Vance said you were sleeping in for once, so he got up at 5 this morning to cook for you." Candace pressed her lips together and said flatly, "Thank you." Julian paused, then playfully tapped her nose. "You little rascal. You don't say thank you to your own husband." Candace said nothing, simply picking up her glass of milk and drinking in silence. Julian interpreted her unusual quietness as surprise, since this was the first time he'd ever cooked for her. He stood beside her, beaming like a golden retriever waiting for praise. "Honey, you don't have to be so shocked. If you like it, I'll make you breakfast every day for the rest of our lives. A lifetime." A lifetime? What lifetime was left? Candace lowered her gaze. "Julian, the day you cheated, you personally destroyed our lifetime." After breakfast, Julian spontaneously suggested a trip to their alma mater, Hudson University. "I've been so busy lately, I haven't had enough time for you. I heard the rose garden is in full bloom. Since I'm free today, I wanted to take you to see it." He didn't give her a chance to refuse, gently nudging her toward the vanity to get ready and personally fastening the new earrings for her. "My wife has the best taste. A beautiful woman and beautiful jewels, a match made in heaven." Candace remained silent, numbly accepting his attentions. In the car, she realized Julian had prepared for everything. A thermos of her favorite tea, a large sun umbrella, and even mosquito-repellent patches. The rose garden at Hudson University hadn't always existed. Julian had funded its creation as a wedding gift to her, a grand romantic gesture named the Candace Garden. When they arrived, he didn't head straight for the garden, but led her to the bustling street fair nearby. Julian stood fully in the sun, beads of sweat on his forehead, while he held the umbrella to shield Candace completely. With his free hand, he fanned her. "Taking my baby to relive our dating days," he announced. He bought everything her gaze lingered on for more than 3 seconds. Despite his severe stomach ulcer, he ate countless spicy and greasy street foods with her. By the time they left the fair, he was a comical sight. an ice cream cone in his left hand, a bubble tea in his right, and a string of carnival prize dolls around his neck. A stark contrast to his bespoke suit and CEO image. A passing student recognized him, her face a mask of disbelief. "Oh my God, am I seeing things? Is that Julian Vance from Apex Dynamics? I heard he was this cold, untouchable tycoon. What is he wearing? This is hilarious." Julian couldn't care less. If it made Candace happy, what was a little damage to his image? Another girl said wistfully, "You don't get it. That's obviously stuff his wife bought. He's just carrying her bags. That's next level PDA. I have to take a picture and post it on the Julidace fan forum." Candace, uncomfortable with the attention, tugged on his sleeve. "Let's go." But Julian was unfazed. He pulled her into an embrace. "Go ahead, take a picture. Just make sure you get my wife's good side, though she's already the most beautiful woman in the world to me." Candace looked down, her face impassive. The girl, thrilled by his down-to-earth reaction, quickly snapped a couple of photos. As she left, she called out excitedly, "I wish you and Mrs. Vance a lifetime of happiness." Julian smiled and accepted the blessing. "Don't worry, we will." After the girls left, Julian took Candace's hand and led her toward the rose garden. "Ah, I forgot to ask them for the photos. I bet they looked great." Candace said nothing, thinking to herself, "There's no point. Soon enough, everything related to me will vanish without a trace." While they were admiring the roses, Julian's phone rang. It was an unsaved number. He answered without thinking. "Julian?" A sharp, angry female voice pierced through the receiver and into Candace's ears. Julian instinctively glanced at Candace, lowered the volume, and nonchalantly walked a few feet away. It was obvious that was his mistress. Candace gripped the trunk of a rose bush, her hands and feet turning to ice. She felt dizzy, unsteady. On the other end, Summer was grilling him. "I saw on the fan forum that you're at Hudson. Why didn't you come see me? Why are you with that old woman?" Julian patiently placated her. "Look at you, getting angry so easily. Candace is my wife. I'm just fulfilling my obligations." The phrase, "fulfilling my obligations," seemed to soothe Summer's temper. "Fine, but I want you to come be with me, right now." Julian's tone was firm. "Impossible. And I believe I told you not to contact me from an unknown number, and especially not to bother me when I'm with my wife. You're being childish." Summer huffed, a sound of defiance mixed with the confidence that she had him wrapped around her finger. "I'm not being childish. I didn't call to steal you away from Candace. I called to tell you that I just bought a very creatively designed set of lingerie, and I wanted you to see if it suits me." Her voice ended on a high, seductive note, like a hook meant to catch his soul. "Just for tonight, handsome." Chapter 3. Summer's words sent a ripple of desire through Julian. "You little devil." As he spoke, he glanced back at Candace. In that single glance, he noticed how pale she looked. The strings of desire in his heart snapped, replaced by a thrum of anxiety. "We'll talk later." Wait, Julian." He hung up before Summer could finish and rushed back to Candace's side. "Honey, what's wrong? You look terrible." He stared at her, his brow furrowed, his eyes filled with genuine concern. Candace looked at him, trying to discern how much of his worry was real. "It's nothing, maybe a little bit of pollen allergy." Julian slammed a fist into his own palm, as if hating his own carelessness. "It's all my fault. How could I forget you have allergies? You always get a fever when they act up. Come on, let's go. I always keep your allergy medicine in the car." He couldn't bear to let her walk. He swept her into his arms and hurried toward the parking lot. In the car, he first turned on the air purifier, then rummaged through the first aid kit for a box of antihistamines. Candace, caught in her lie, had to say, "I feel better now. I don't need to take anything." "No," Julian refused, his tone firm. "You have to." But the moment he looked at Candace's sweet face, his resolve melted. He softened his voice, coaxing her like a child. "Baby, you can't refuse your medicine. How about this? I'll take it with you." Without waiting for an answer, he popped a pill into his own mouth and swallowed. As he swallowed, a wave of pain and confusion washed over Candace. This man, who loved her so much he would take medicine with her just to comfort her, how could he give half his heart to someone else? On the way back, Julian draped his jacket over her, driving both quickly and smoothly, terrified of jostling her. At every red light, he'd reach over to check her temperature, frantic with worry. Candace pulled away. "Just focus on driving, I'm fine." Julian's lips parted, then closed. After a moment's hesitation, he asked tentatively, "Honey, I feel like you've been a little distant lately. Did I do something to upset you?" "No," Candace said, unwilling to talk. "I just ate too many different things at the street fair. My stomach feels a little bloated." Julian let out a long sigh of relief. "You're right. We're getting older. Our digestion isn't what it used to be. I'll make you a soothing soup when we get home." Yes, youth has its advantages, doesn't it? Good health, good looks, endless energy, and so many more tricks up their sleeves. No wonder you men all love younger women. Candace turned her head slowly, her eyes fixed on him. "Isn't that right, Julian?" Julian, focused on the road, didn't miss a beat. He laughed, his expression completely natural. "I'm not that kind of man. I don't like young, beautiful girls. I only like you." Candace's gaze intensified. "Really?" Julian took one hand off the wheel, grabbed her left hand, and placed it over his heart, as if taking an oath. "I, Julian Vance, will only love one person in this life, Candace Reed. I will always put Candace first and dedicate my life to her. I will never, ever let my eyes wander to another woman, not even for half a second." Listening to his solemn vow, Candace felt a lump form in her throat. She turned her face to the window. The clouds outside drifted and scattered, the scenery changing in an instant. She let out a soft laugh, but silent tears streamed down her face. "Julian, you don't even blink when you lie." Hearing her laugh, Julian assumed her mood had improved and finally relaxed. And then, like a phantom, Summer's seductive words crept back into his mind. "I bought a very creatively designed set of lingerie, and I wanted you to see if it suits me." Once the seed of desire was planted, it became impossible to ignore. The car pulled up to their mansion, but Julian didn't get out. He kissed Candace's forehead, his smile gentle. "Honey, I just got a call. Some business partners have put together a last-minute dinner. I should probably go make an appearance." Candace got out of the car without looking back. "Go on, then." After returning to her room in silence, Candace opened the remote monitoring app on her phone. When they got out of the car, she had activated the dashcam without him noticing. Chapter 4. The monitor on her phone showed Julian driving straight to Hudson University to pick up Summer. The moment Summer got in the car, she threw herself at him, her lips capturing his. Julian didn't push her away. He closed his eyes, seeming to relish the kiss. They kissed with a desperate, all-consuming passion, the sounds of their intimacy filling the car. The sounds were like a dull knife slowly dismembering Candace's heart. Her body went cold, and she began to tremble uncontrollably, digging her nails into her palms, using the pain to ground herself. When the kiss ended, Summer draped herself over Julian like a boneless vine, her fingertips tracing lazy circles on his chest. "So, handsome," she purred. "Guess whether or not I'm wearing that lingerie right now. Want to explore?" As she spoke, she guided his hand under her skirt. Julian's eyes darkened, and a playful smirk tugged at his lips. "You little minx, how many more tricks do you have that I don't know about?" Summer tilted her head up, her lips finding the hollow of his throat. "I'll never tell. You'll have to guess." Julian chuckled, biting her lip hard. "Stubborn, are we? Let's see how long you can hold out once we get home." He started the engine, his impatience palpable, and sped toward his private penthouse in the city. Witnessing Julian's intimacy with another woman was like having a blade plunged into her heart and twisted. Candace felt her very bones and blood being churned into a mangled pulp. She collapsed onto a chair, her chest heaving violently, unable to draw a breath, on the verge of suffocating. Her health had always been delicate, and Julian had never been overly demanding with her physically. In 7 years of marriage, she had often felt guilty. He was a man in his prime, and she didn't want him to always have to hold back because of her physical limitations. She had tried to plan little surprises to make it up to him, but even in their most passionate moments, Julian had always maintained a careful restraint. "Candy, you don't have to do any of this. I love you, the person. Our physical life is great, but even if it wasn't, it wouldn't change how much I love you. My love for you has nothing to do with sex. It has everything to do with you. There was a saying, if a man is afraid to hurt you even in bed, he truly loves you." Candace had once believed that with all her heart. She had been utterly convinced of Julian's love. But the man who had spoken those words with such depth of feeling was now tumbling in the sheets with another woman. Julian and Summer got out of the car, and the video feed cut out. Candace sat motionless, as if her soul had been ripped from her body, staring at the blank screen. Only when the clock chimed midnight did she slowly stand up. She took one step and her legs gave out, sending her crashing to the floor. The fall knocked over their wedding photo from the nightstand. In the picture, the loving couple smiled back at her. She stared at it for a second, then picked up the frame and hurled it against the wall. It shattered, the glass and wood scattering across the floor. The two people in the picture, now torn apart. From the moment she discovered the affair until now, she hadn't shed a single tear. But now, she couldn't hold it back any longer. "Julian," she rasped, her voice choked with sobs. "Julian, you bastard, you broke your promise?" After the tears, the professional discipline of a doctor kicked in, and she calmed herself. Candace began to pack her things. From her laptop to the smallest scrap of paper, she packed everything, leaving no trace behind. She was going to disappear from Julian Vance's life, completely and utterly. Then, she saw the earrings. She'd never actually liked them. What she had wanted was the matching ring. When they got married, Julian's company was facing a financial crisis. He couldn't afford a real ring. She hadn't cared. She had slipped a soda can tab on her finger and married him anyway. She had never had a wedding ring. And now, all these years later, he still hadn't bought her one. Perhaps this was fate. Her phone screen lit up with a notification from the Julidace fan forum. It was a portmanteau of their names, Julian and Candace. She clicked on it. A user named Simply the Sweetest had tagged her. "Mrs. Vance, your earrings today were so beautiful I heard they're part of a set with a ring. My boyfriend just gave me the ring by itself. Could you help me see if it's the same one?" As if deliberately showing off, the user posted 5 photos from different angles. One of them showed a man kneeling before her, slipping the ring onto her finger. Though his face was obscured, Candace recognized the cufflinks on the man's suit. She had made them for Julian herself. The woman was Summer. The ring she had yearned for all this time had long since been placed on another woman's finger by Julian's own hand. Chapter 5. As if torturing herself, she clicked on Summer's social media profile. It was updated frequently, a stream of pink, bubbly posts from a girl in love. "A year ago, my man took me to a private party tonight and officially introduced me to his friends. I feel like I've finally gotten his approval." On her birthday, a picture of a man's back. "A man who can bake is so hot. But he said I'm even sweeter than the cake he." On Valentine's Day, Summer posted a crying cat meme. "Shouldn't Valentine's Day be for your lover? Why do you have to go home to your wife? Why does that old woman get to have him? The one who isn't loved is the real third wheel." 3 months ago. "First time playing in the shower with my man today. The sound of his breathing is so sexy, and he's so cute when he blushes. Who knew a man married for 7 years could be so innocent? I feel like I'm really bringing him out of his shell. A little proud of myself. Last week, a post from a hospital. Oops, we played a little too rough. The doctor said I have a ruptured corpus luteum cyst. It's because he's just too strong, ladies. Is this what they call a sweet problem? Begging for advice? What do you do when your boyfriend wants it all the time?" Candace suddenly remembered. That day last week, she had been suffering from menstrual cramps so severe she had a fever. The housekeeper was on her day off. She had wanted to ask Julian to take her to the hospital, but he had told her he had an urgent international conference call. She ended up taking a taxi to the hospital alone, writhing in pain. She never imagined that he was with another woman, having sex so rough it sent her to the emergency room. The signs had been there all along. She had just been too blind to see them. Candace scrolled through the posts, one after another, until a new one appeared. "You jerk, you bastard, you promised to spend the whole night with me, but now you're going home. Is that old woman really that great? I refused to accept it, but at least I drained him dry. It would be a real shame to let that old woman have him when he's full of energy." Julian was woken by a clap of thunder at 2 in the morning. He shot up, immediately getting dressed. Summer thunderstorms were common. Candace was terrified of thunder and lightning. Summer threw herself onto his back, her legs wrapping around him like vines. "Didn't you promise to stay? Don't go, don't go, don't go, I'm scared of the storm." Julian picked up the ring and tossed it to her casually, as if placating a pet. "Don't be difficult, baby. I saw you playing with this ring all night. It's yours. Consider it my apology for not staying. Then give me one more kiss." Julian smiled wearily and planted a kiss on her forehead. "Be good." Summer bit down hard on his neck, a mix of passion and aggression. Julian's face darkened, and he pulled her away. "Get off. I told you before, no marks. I can't let my wife see." Summer saw the angry red love bites blooming on the back of his neck, but lied without blinking. "You don't have to tell me that. You know I'm the most considerate girl in the world. Don't worry, there's not a single mark. Dr. Reed will never find out." Julian grunted in agreement. Summer nibbled on his earlobe. "I'm letting you go this time. Next time, I'll make sure you're too weak to even get out of bed." Julian gave her cheek a perfunctory pat, threw on his jacket, and left quickly. "How is she?" Julian stormed in, his hair still dripping from the rain. A servant immediately offered him a towel, but he brushed it aside and headed straight for the bedroom. At the door, he consciously quieted his steps, opening it with extreme care. "Honey," he called out, his voice as soft as cotton, afraid of startling her, but the bedroom was empty. Chapter 6. His gaze sharpened, his heart leaping into his throat. A dreadful fear that Candace had discovered something seized him, and he frantically searched room after room. He finally found her in the study and let out a breath of relief. Candace was looking at flights to the United States for a date 2 weeks from now. He didn't think much of it, assuming she was just planning a vacation. He walked over and wrapped his arms around her. "Why are you looking at flights in the middle of the night? Want to go on a trip?" Candace turned her head. Her eyes immediately landed on the cluster of angry, red love bites on the back of his neck. Deep and shallow, crisscrossing each other. They must have been so rough, she thought. How much love, how much desire does it take to leave so many marks? She averted her gaze. "Just browsing." Julian lifted her into his arms and carried her toward the bedroom. "Staying up late is bad for you. I'll pick a vacation spot tomorrow, you get some sleep. It's hot now, how about we find somewhere cool to escape the heat?" Candace looped her arms around his neck, her eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. She didn't understand how Julian could be so tender and concerned for her right after being so passionately entangled with another woman. How could one heart be split between two people? "Whatever you want," she said, turning her back to him. Julian assumed she was just tired. He pulled her into his embrace, his large frame enveloping her, gently patting her back as if soothing a child. Sleep now, sleep now." The scene was painfully familiar. Whenever she had insomnia, he would stay up all night, holding her just like this. Even if it meant his eyes were bloodshot the next day, even if he had a crucial meeting. Candace closed her eyes, a bitter smile on her lips. The more beautiful the past, the more unbearable the present. She would not keep a man like this. The next day, Julian was no longer in the kitchen, but a note was left on the dining table. "Honey, I have a press conference for the new product launch today, so I couldn't stay for breakfast. I'm so sorry. Love, your husband." She glanced at the spread. It was another elaborate combination of her favorite dishes. In the past, she would have been thrilled. Now it only felt hypocritical. "Maria, throw all of this away." "All of it, ma'am, but Mr. Vance made this for you himself." Candace's voice was firm. "Yes, all of it." She said it as if explaining to Maria, but also to herself. "Because I don't like it anymore." After a new, simple breakfast, Candace contacted a consignment service and sold off a portion of the things she had packed. After the buyer left, she arranged to meet Chloe to discuss the divorce. Chloe, a woman of refined tastes, chose a restaurant in a 7-star hotel. When Candace arrived, the lobby was being decorated for an evening gala. Chloe smiled. "What a coincidence. Your Julian is holding his new product launch gala here tonight." Candace looked down, her face betraying no emotion. "He's not mine anymore." She didn't want him. Chloe handed her a file. "Here's the draft of the divorce agreement. He's the party at fault, so I've maximized your terms on everything." Candace looked at her best friend, her eyes welling up. "Thank you, Chloe." Chloe's heart ached for her. "That son of a bitch. How is his acting so good? Who would have ever guessed he'd cheat? Candy, I just want to beat the hell out of him for you." Candace's eyes reddened, but she shook her head gently. There was no point. In 2 weeks, she would disappear from this world without a trace. She was letting go of everything here. Chloe was a partner at a top law firm, always busy. A few minutes into their conversation, she was called away for a meeting. Candace took out her phone, about to pay and leave, when a trending topic with both her and Julian's names popped up on her screen. Chapter 7. It turned out that for today's press conference, Julian had brought Summer along. Summer was dressed in a chic, form-fitting business suit that was both professional and subtly sexy. Her chestnut brown hair was styled in soft waves, giving her the perfect, workplace siren look. The media, always partial to a pretty face, gave Summer plenty of screen time. In several shots, she and Julian were standing so close they were almost touching. The moment the live feed hit the internet, it sparked a heated discussion. Netizens gushed about the handsome tycoon and his beautiful assistant, calling it a real-life romance novel. Many others chimed in to shut down the shipping, reminding everyone that Julian was a married man of 7 years, known for his deep love for his wife. This, naturally, made people curious about what Candace looked like. The photo of her and Julian taken at Hudson University a few days ago was quickly dug up. Somehow, an absurd topic started trending. Who's a better match for Julian Vance? Mrs. Vance or Miss Summer? It was even turned into a poll. Blue for Candace, red for Summer. As Julian's legal wife, Candace's support was, of course, leading by a landslide. The user, Simply the Sweetest, commented defiantly, "Isn't a good match all about vibe and sexual tension? Why does having a marriage certificate automatically make someone superior? If you ask me, the chemistry between Miss Summer and Mr. Vance is electric. They're the perfect match. So many true loves in this world are missed just because of bad timing. Say what you want, but I believe that if Miss Summer had met Mr. Vance first, she's the one he would have fallen in love with. And besides, he's been married for 7 years. Haven't you heard of the 5-year rut or the 7-year itch? Maybe he's already tired of his wife and is only staying with her out of a sense of duty and responsibility." Normally, Summer's passive-aggressive barbs wouldn't have affected Candace. She knew Julian. It wasn't in his character to stay with her out of mere obligation. Even if their love had faded, he still had feelings for her, even if those feelings were no longer pure. But then, someone replied to Summer's comment, "Your analysis is spot on." Candace stared at the familiar user ID and her world froze. It was Julian's private, anonymous account. This was a reply from Julian himself. It felt like being struck by a physical blow. Candace clutched her chest, her face turning deathly pale. A waiter rushed over. "Miss, are you all right? Do you need me to call an ambulance?" Candace shook her head, trying to say she was fine, but her throat felt like it was filled with needles, painful and clogged. She couldn't speak, couldn't cry, her eyes just burned red with unshed tears. She took a deep breath, terrified of losing control in public, and forced herself to walk toward the restroom. Backstage at the press conference, Julian patted his pockets, unable to find his phone. He walked over to Summer. "Have you seen my phone?" Summer frantically logged out of Julian's account. He couldn't find out she'd just used it to reply to that thread. After exiting, she pulled the phone from her pocket. "You left it on the podium earlier. I grabbed it for you. Thanks." As Julian reached for the phone, Summer caught his hand. He frowned. "What are you doing? The media is everywhere. I don't want my wife to find out." "What's there to be afraid of? For all you know, Candace already knows." Julian's eyes narrowed with a hint of warning. "What did you do?" "Me? What could I possibly do? I'm always on my best behavior. It's just the media stirring things up." As she spoke, she was secretly gloating. She had been the one to pay for the trending topic. She had only meant to annoy Candace, but she never expected it to climb to the top of the charts. Best money she'd ever spent. Summer opened the trending page and showed it to Julian. "See, a lot of people are saying we're a better match." Julian glanced at it once. "Pathetic." He turned to leave, but not before adding a final instruction. "Clean this up. I don't want any rumors upsetting my wife. I'll say it again. No one and nothing is to hurt my wife. That includes you." Hearing this, a fire of jealousy ignited in Summer's heart. Her red nails dug into her palms, but when she looked up, her smile was deceptively innocent. "Of course. No one should ever hurt our dear Candace." In the restroom, Candace stared at her own reflection, at her tear-streaked face, and a slow, broken smile spread across her lips. So pathetic, so laughable. She took a deep breath and splashed cold water on her face, washing away the evidence of her tears. Just as she regained her composure and was about to leave, she received a call from Summer. Chapter 8. "Mrs. Vance, hello. This is Summer from the company. After the press conference, there's a formal dinner gala. All the business partners are bringing their spouses." After hanging up, Summer felt a surge of triumph. She had posted the picture of Julian kneeling to give her the ring. Candace had seen it. She had pushed the news about her and Julian being a better match in front of Candace. And still, Candace hadn't reacted. Now, she wanted Candace to see that Julian wasn't afraid to be seen with her in public. She refused to believe that this multi-pronged attack wouldn't finally shatter Candace's defenses. Candace had no desire for any further contact with Julian, but she was a major shareholder and one of the company's founders. She had a duty to attend important business functions. Since she was already at the hotel, she went straight to the ballroom to wait. After waiting for a long time without any sign of Julian, she sent him a text. "I'm at the gala. Where are you?" After sending it, she felt a pang of hunger and realized she hadn't eaten all day. She picked up a small plate of fruit and found a quiet corner to have a few bites. A waiter approached and tried to usher her out. "Ma'am, I've seen you wandering around the event for a while now. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is a private gala for the CEO of Apex Dynamics, his wife, and their partners." Candace stated the simple truth. "I am Julian Vance's wife," the waiter sneered. "If you're going to lie, at least make it believable. Trying to crash a party for free food, and now you're claiming to be Mrs. Vance? Mr. and Mrs. Vance are right over there." Following the waiter's gaze, Candace saw that the gala had quietly begun while she was distracted. Julian was making the rounds with Summer, introducing her to guests. Summer's arm was linked through his, her head tilted affectionately toward his shoulder. Julian's other hand rested gently over hers, making them look like a deeply devoted, loving couple. They looked for all the world like husband and wife. Candace managed a bitter smile. Even the cherry in her mouth had lost its sweetness. "You're right," she said to the waiter. "I was lying. I'll leave now." She pushed herself up, her body swaying unsteadily as she walked toward the exit. Julian, in the middle of a conversation, caught a glimpse of a familiar figure out of the corner of his eye. His heart lurched with a sudden, sharp unease. "Excuse me for a moment." He pulled his arm from Summer's grasp and strode quickly toward the door. Summer and the business partner they were talking to both stared, watching as Julian almost desperately grabbed a woman's arm. "Honey," Julian gripped Candace's wrist. "What are you doing here?" Candace slowly looked up at his face. She tried to read his expression. Was it surprise or shock, but she could never see through him. "I got a call about a gala?" Right, Julian agreed hastily. "I sent a driver for you. He must be stuck in traffic. I'm so glad you didn't wait, otherwise I would have been all alone tonight." Candace didn't speak, her eyes drifting involuntarily to Summer. Julian, ever sensitive to her moods, rushed to explain. "Honey, don't get the wrong idea. This is Miss Summer, my assistant. I brought her along mainly to run interference and help me fend off drinks." Summer walked over, smoothly picking up his cue. "That's right, Mrs. Vance. I'm just the designated drink blocker." She smiled naturally. "You got here just in time. I was running out of ways to explain myself. Everyone kept calling me the Little Misses." At this, Julian's eyes darkened. He shot Summer a silent, warning glare. "The guests over there need attending to. Why don't you go see to them?" Summer nodded obediently. "Of course, Mr. Vance." Julian carefully wrapped an arm around Candace. "Honey, it's crowded out here. Let's go to the private room. It's just close friends in there, you can say hello. It's been a while since you've seen them." The wealthy elite of the city was a small circle. It was always the same faces: Julian's college friends, his childhood buddies. Candace knew most of them. Nate, one of his friends, teased her. "Been a while, Candy. You get more beautiful every time I see you." "Get lost," Julian snapped. He was fiercely possessive of Candace and couldn't stand other men looking at her for too long. "Look at her again, and I'll knock you out," another friend, Leo, tried to pour Candace a glass of wine, but Julian blocked it. "Sorry, my wife doesn't drink. I'll be taking all of her drinks tonight." "Julian, come on, you've got a severe ulcer. Are you trying to drink yourself to death?" Julian shot back. "None of your business." "I'd die for my wife." Chapter 9. Tusk, Julian, look at you, completely whipped. I'm embarrassed for you. The great Julian Vance, a total henpecked husband in private. I heard you even wash her feet and put on her shoes for her. Is that true? Of course it's true. The room erupted in playful jeers. Julian, far from being embarrassed, looked proud. None of you have room to talk. I'm telling you, if you could marry a woman as amazing as Candy, you'd be whipped too. Julian's affectionate display grew more and more effusive, but Candace could no longer stomach his performance. "Excuse me, everyone. I'm not feeling well. I think I need to head home. Please enjoy the rest of your night." Julian stood up immediately. "I'll take you home," Candace said. "This is a company event. You can't leave. Stay here and handle things." Without another word, she walked out. Julian followed her to the door. "Let me see you get in the car. Text me when you get home." He watched until her car disappeared before returning to the party. Not long after she left, Candace realized she'd left her purse in the private room. The divorce agreement was inside. She couldn't let Julian see it yet. She had to go back. She told the driver to turn around and return to the hotel. After Candace left, the atmosphere in the private room shifted. Nate clapped Julian on the shoulder. "Man, you've got some skills. Your wife catches you with your assistant and you still manage to talk your way out of it." Leo analyzed the situation seriously. "Ultimately, it's because you and Candy have such a strong foundation. You practically worship the ground she walks on. She has no reason to ever suspect you." Another friend, Mark, chimed in. "Lesson learned. No matter how many girls you have on the side, as long as you keep the one at home happy, you can do whatever you want." Julian sipped his red wine in silence. When he had seen Candace's silhouette, his heart had nearly stopped. A thick, heavy dread had enveloped him, making him realize with terrifying clarity that he could not bear the thought of losing her. It was worse than death. He set down his glass, his voice low and serious. "About Summer and me, if any of you lets anything slip to my wife, don't blame me for turning on you. We get it. You don't have to tell us. We've all witnessed your love story. We know where the line is. Everyone knows fun is fun, but Candy is your one true love." Another friend, Ethan, was more cautious. "Julian, you should still be careful. Candy is incredibly smart. Are you really sure she doesn't know about you and Summer?" Julian smiled confidently. "Don't worry, she definitely doesn't know." He knew Candace. She was the type who couldn't tolerate a single grain of sand in her relationship. If she knew he had cheated, she wouldn't be this calm. He took a sip of wine. "You don't need to worry. The moment I sense anything is off with Candy, I'll cut things off with Summer completely." His words were blunt, practically grinding Summer's dignity into the dust. Summer pouted, then swung herself onto Julian's lap, her tone a mix of petulance and seduction. "You're so cruel. What does that make me then? Say it again. Me or your wife, who do you choose? Tell me right now." Whoa, putting out one fire just to start another. "The big boss is happy, but the little missus is mad. What are you gonna do now, Julian?" The men whistled and egged them on. Julian's hand slid to her waist, his voice becoming playful and unrestrained as he effortlessly switched to placating her. "You're my little sweetheart, my darling. With you here, who even is my wife, I choose you. No matter what, I'll always choose you." His voice was loud, carrying clearly through the door. Candace, who had just returned for her purse, froze with her hand raised to knock. "Oh my God, Julian, you're so cheesy. Happy now, Summer? Look at Mr. Reserved throwing around sweet nothings. Looks like Summer's been putting in some serious work behind the scenes." Julian gave Summer's waist a squeeze. "She certainly has. Whoa, Julian, are we talking about frequency or quality?" Julian toyed with Summer's earlobe, his touch a teasing mix of gentle and firm. "Frequency and quality." He gave her a quick kiss, "and her body and the sounds she makes." The room erupted. "This is getting wild, Julian. You've finally been unleashed." Julian didn't deny it. And it was true. With Candace, he always had to be mindful of her delicate health, often leaving him unsatisfied, afraid to be too rough. Meeting Summer had been a release. She had shown him a kind of all-consuming, soul-stealing passion he'd never known. Especially since, in certain ways, the arch of Summer's brow and the shape of her lips reminded him so much of Candace. Summer seized the opportunity, cooing, "So, handsome, aren't you going to reward me?" Julian's lips curved into a wicked smile. Without a word, he tilted her chin up and kissed her, his large hand cupping the back of her head in a display of raw possession. The room exploded with cheers. Witnessing it all, Candace couldn't take it anymore. She ran, tears streaming down her face, her soul feeling like it had been torn from her body. She was so lost in her pain that she didn't notice she had wandered into the middle of the street. Chapter 10. A speeding electric scooter slammed into her, sending her crashing against a metal guardrail. A searing pain shot through her. Candace clutched her side, gasping for air, cold sweat beading on her forehead. "Are you crazy?" The rider yelled, furious. "If you want to kill yourself, go find a quiet place to hang yourself. Don't do it on the road and drag other people into it." Candace was a reasonable person. She didn't argue back. It was her fault. Her face was pale as she apologized. "I'm so sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I'm so sorry." The rider glared at her before speeding off, still cursing under his breath. Candace gritted her teeth and forced herself to stand. The moment she took a step, she felt a sudden gush of warmth between her legs. Her body froze. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she slowly looked down. Blood was trickling down from under her dress. Her mind went blank with a deafening roar, and she nearly collapsed. She frantically waved her arm, tears streaming down her face. "Taxi, taxi, take me to the hospital. I'm having a miscarriage." Meanwhile, in the private room, Julian and Summer were in the middle of a rowdy game of truth or dare. The atmosphere was thick with booze and flirtation. Julian, more accustomed to attending concerts and art galleries with Candace or playing intellectual games, was terrible at truth or dare. He kept losing, and the questions from his friends grew increasingly risque. "Julian, you lose again. This time I want to know, what's your favorite fantasy?" The question was loaded, designed to make him squirm, but Julian was caught up in the moment. He answered without hesitation. "The shower, and a uniform." Summer corrected him with a playful pout. It wasn't a uniform, it was a schoolgirl outfit. Julian's hand played with the soft flesh at her waist, his tone indulgent. "Then we'll do a real uniform next time." The room cheered. "Flight attendant or nurse?" Julian. "Flight attendant first, then nurse." Summer blushed and pushed him playfully. "You're terrible, telling everyone everything." Julian chuckled, pecking her on the lips. "But you like me this way, don't you?" The next round, Julian lost again. This time he chose dare, and Nate challenged him to down 3 glasses of wine. Julian sighed with a wry smile. "A bet's a bet. But just so you know, if I pass out, you guys have to get me home to my wife." Hearing this, Summer silently rolled her eyes. Nate laughed. Don't worry, just drink up." Julian smirked and went to get the bartender to open a new bottle. Just then, his phone rang. Summer picked it up nonchalantly. Seeing the caller ID, "My dearest wife," she wrinkled her nose and declined the call. She then meticulously deleted the call from the log. In the emergency room, a nurse ran to the attending physician, holding a phone. "Doctor, what do we do?" The patient passed out right after unlocking her phone. Her husband isn't answering. The doctor made a swift decision. "Keep calling, and send texts. Tell him the patient is in critical condition, and we need a family member to sign off on whether to terminate or try to save the pregnancy." Candace, drifting in and out of consciousness on the gurney, could only vaguely hear the words, "He's not answering." Back at the party, Summer was about to put the phone down when a text message appeared. "This is the emergency department at Metropolitan General Hospital. Your wife has suffered a traumatic impact and is at risk of miscarriage. Please come to the hospital immediately to provide consent for treatment." Summer froze, her first instinct to find Julian. But a second later, a cold calm settled over her, mixed with a secret, wicked thrill. A miscarriage would be a good thing. If Candace had Julian's child, it would be much harder for her to take her place. And if no one signed the forms, even better. If they waited long enough, maybe both mother and child would be lost. Then she could become Mrs. Vance without any obstacles. With that thought, she went all in. She deleted the text message, switched the phone to silent, and slipped it deep between the sofa cushions. 3 glasses of wine later, Julian was visibly drunk. "Nope, that's it for me. I have to go home. My wife will be worried if I'm out too late." The others, still in high spirits, protested. "Come on, Julian, don't be a party pooper. If you leave now, you've got no ride." Summer stood up. "I'll take Mr. Vance home. Don't let me spoil your fun, gentlemen." "Summer, you better make sure you actually get him home. Don't you go detouring to your own bed now." "I know my place. I would never do anything to make Mrs. Vance worry. You can count on me." In their eyes, Summer was always obedient. They figured she wouldn't dare cross Candace, so they let her take Julian. But the moment they left, she took him straight to a hotel suite. She tore at both of their clothes until they were in a state of disarray and snapped several suggestive photos. Julian, wake up," she said, deliberately trying to annoy him. Julian, his mind clouded with alcohol, was irritated by the disturbance. "Leave me alone." "You're so annoying," Summer smiled, a picture of innocence, but her eyes glinted with calculation. This was exactly what she wanted. She started a voice recording on her phone and shook him awake again. Julian roared in frustration. "Can a man get some sleep in the middle of the night? Is this ever going to end? Stop bothering me." Chapter 11. Unable to contact Julian, the doctors had to resort to using a defibrillator to wake Candace. The jolt of agony ripped her from her unconscious state. She felt as if she had just taken a trip through hell. "Are you awake?" the doctor asked urgently. "We can't reach your husband. Can you sign the consent form yourself?" Candace's mind was still foggy, her reactions slow. The doctor pressed. "Save the pregnancy or terminate. I have to advise you, trying to save it carries significant risks for you, and there's no guarantee of success. We recommend termination. You're young, you can always try again." Her right hand instinctively went to her abdomen. Maybe it was a hallucination, but she could have sworn she felt the baby kick. Was this some cruel joke from the universe? The moment Julian's betrayal came to light, she discovered she was pregnant. The pain in her heart was a raw, gaping wound. She fought back tears. I want to make one more call." "To," she hesitated, the word feeling like a death sentence in her mouth. "To my husband." "Fine, but you need to be quick." Candace dialed the number, a wave of fear washing over her. Was telling Julian about the pregnancy the right decision? Would he be happy? Or would he see it as a complication? He was in the throes of a passionate affair with another woman. Would he even want this child? As she hesitated, her phone chimed with a notification. It was a voice message from Julian on WhatsApp. Her eyes lit up with a flicker of hope, and she quickly played it. The next second, it felt as if Julian had stabbed her from across the city. "Can a man get some sleep in the middle of the night? Is this ever going to end? Stop bothering me," his angry roar echoed in the silent, sterile emergency room. Everyone fell quiet. Candace looked down, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. Then, a dozen explicit photos flooded her screen, followed by a series of messages. "Candace, now that you've heard it from him yourself, you're a smart woman. You should understand what he means. I didn't want to embarrass you at the gala, so I didn't tell you then that Julian and I are together now. You must have noticed. The person Julian loves now is me. He told me himself that he has no love left for you, that he's only with you out of duty and responsibility. If you have any sense, you'll leave on your own. Of course, it doesn't really matter if you stay. After all, Julian and I are practically a real couple now. No, we're better. We have more passion. The photos are proof. To be honest, he just ripped 2 of my dresses and we went through a whole box of condoms. Julian also said that while you're beautiful, you're a total bore in bed. It was only after being with me that he understood what real passion feels like. I hate to say it, but as a woman, you're a complete failure. After all this, you must understand that Julian has 0 feelings for you anymore. As one woman to another, I don't want to see you lose everything. So, listen to me. Don't put him under so much moral pressure. Duty and responsibility will fade eventually. Why not leave on your own while he still feels a little guilty? You might even earn a little bit of his goodwill that way." Tears blurred her vision. The heart monitor beside her began to beep erratically. The doctor's face grew grim. "Miss, you've wasted too much time. Your condition has worsened. We have to terminate now. Do you consent?" Candace took a deep, shuddering breath, turned off her phone, and said with chilling firmness, "Terminate." "Doctor, terminate the pregnancy." The doctor nodded. "Yes, you're making the right choice, dear. You can have more babies in the future. Right now, you have to take care of yourself." Lying on the operating table, Candace felt as if a piece of her heart was being carved out. She bit down hard on her lip, refusing to make a sound, but tears streamed relentlessly down her face. "I'm sorry, my baby. I'm so sorry. It's not that Mommy doesn't want you. It's that your father doesn't want us." Candace's procedure was successful. After 2 hours of observation with no complications, she was discharged. She went home first. She gathered all of her belongings, along with the rose bushes she and Julian had planted together in the garden, and set them all on fire. The wedding photos, along with all their memories, turned to ash. Amidst the towering flames, she turned her back without hesitation and headed straight for the airport. "Julian Vance, from this day forward, in this life and the next, may we never meet again." Chapter 12. When Julian woke up, his head was splitting. He instinctively rolled over, reaching to pull the woman beside him into his arms. "Honey, my head is killing me." The next second, he was hit by a scent that wasn't Candace's. The fog of his hangover vanished instantly. He shot upright and whipped his head around to look at the woman beside him. Summer sat up too. "Headache? I'll go make you some detox tea." Julian's face darkened. "I told you last night, no matter what, to take me home." He prided himself on having principles and a bottom line. Even when he was with Summer, he had never once stayed out all night without letting Candace know. Summer shot him a sideways glance. "When you get in the mood, who can stop you?" She threw the torn dress at his face. "Look at this, your handiwork from last night. You nearly killed me. I was going to send you home. I even had a car waiting, but you insisted on coming to the hotel. And now you have the nerve to be mad at me." Julian's brow furrowed. He had been so drunk he couldn't remember a thing, but looking at Summer's disheveled state, it didn't seem like she was lying. He got up and started dressing. Summer said, "It's only 6. You don't have to be at work yet." "Julian, it's early enough to go home and make my wife breakfast." At his words, a flash of pure hatred crossed Summer's eyes. Candace, what's so great about her? Why won't she just die?" Julian finished buttoning his shirt. "Have you seen my phone? Did my wife call?" Summer pulled the covers over her head, feigning a pout. "Haven't seen it." Julian's expression hardened. He yanked the covers off her. "What are you doing?" "You're hurting me." Julian stared at her, his gaze severe. "Where is my phone? Did you do something?" Summer's heart hammered in her chest, but she couldn't let him see her fear. "Me? What could I do? Everyone knows how much you cherish Candace. Even if I wanted to do something, would I dare? You were so drunk last night you could barely walk. I did well just to get you in here. How was I supposed to keep track of your phone? You probably dropped it on the street or something." Julian studied her for a moment, but seeing no trace of guilt, he said nothing more, pushed open the door, and strode out. Behind him, Summer let out a huge sigh of relief. When Julian got home, he searched the entire mansion but found no sign of Candace. His heart clenched, and a massive, suffocating sense of dread washed over him. "Maria, where is my wife?" Maria, the housekeeper, hurried out. "I'm sorry, sir. Mrs. Vance didn't say where she was going when she left." For some reason, he had a terrible feeling, as if he was about to lose her. Could it be, did Candace find out about him and Summer? The thought sent a jolt of panic through him. He fumbled for his backup phone and called her, his fingers trembling as he dialed. At JFK Airport, Candace saw the flight delay notification on the board and knew she had to answer Julian's call. Her flight was delayed until 3 p.m. In New York, Julian had connections everywhere. Before 3 p.m., she was still within his reach. If he wanted to find her, it would be effortless. Although, a part of her thought, he was probably thrilled she was leaving on her own accord. But Candace was always cautious. She couldn't afford any interference with her departure. She had to placate him. "Hello," she said, her voice a quiet breath. "Honey," hearing her voice, Julian's own voice was filled with frantic relief. "Honey, where are you? Why aren't you home?" Chapter 13. Candace watched the planes outside the window take off and land, each heading in its own direction after a brief stop. Just like her love for Julian. "I'm out shopping. I wanted to buy a few new dresses. You like it when I wear dresses, don't you?" Hearing this, Julian's tension evaporated. A woman dresses for the one she loves. If Candace was still willing to buy dresses for him, it meant she hadn't discovered anything. At that thought, a strange sense of pride swelled within him. Plenty of his friends had women on the side. Several had been careless and their wives had found out, leaving each of them heartbroken. But his wife, no matter how wild things got with Summer, remained blissfully ignorant, living her life as a happy, cherished wife. Candace had no other family. Her parents had passed away long ago. He was her only family in the world. He had done a good job of protecting her. With that thought, Julian's worries vanished and his voice became light and cheerful. He blew a kiss into the phone. "Come home soon. I'll be waiting. I'll make your favorite sweet corn fritters for dinner tonight." "Okay." Candace's face was a blank mask. At 3 p.m., Candace boarded the flight to her new life. Through the small window, New York City shrank, eventually disappearing from view. She closed her eyes and let her last tears fall. "Julian, I forgive you for putting me through hell. From now on, may our paths never cross again." Lately, Julian had been pushing things too far with Summer, leaving him feeling drained. When he got home, he had intended to just take a short nap. He didn't expect to wake up the next morning. He rubbed his forehead in annoyance. He'd promised Candace he'd make her sweet and sour pork ribs. How could he have overslept? He was about to get dressed when a sexy photo from Summer popped up on his phone. Morning, handsome. I'll be waiting for you in this outfit today, red stilettos, a flight attendant uniform. It was outrageously provocative. Morning desires were already strong. He was no match for such a blatant invitation. In an instant, desire triumphed over the faint guilt he felt toward Candace. He lay back down and started texting with Summer. It's fine, he told himself. Candace loves me so much, she won't mind that I didn't cook for her. She would want me to be well rested. Baby, call me your man, he sent in a voice message. It wasn't until he'd found his release, spurred on by Summer's teasing, that he habitually called out, honey, but there was no answer. Only the echo of his own voice in the vast, empty mansion. Why aren't you talking? He clicked his tongue, slipped on his shoes, and went downstairs. At this time of day, she was usually arranging flowers, the fresh-cut roses from the garden she adored. But the living room was empty. The vase on the coffee table held only withered stems. It looked like it hadn't been touched in days. Julian's gaze darkened. He strode quickly out to the garden, and the sight that met his eyes made his heart clench violently. The rose garden, Candace's most treasured space, was a patch of scorched earth. A fire had consumed it, leaving not a single leaf. Maria, Julian roared. What the hell happened here? Was there a fire? How could you let this happen? This was my wife's favorite place. How am I supposed to explain this to her? Maria ran out, flustered. Sir, it wasn't our fault. It was Mrs. Vance who burned it. Julian froze. What? Candace burned it herself. Chapter 14. He and Candace had planted it with their own hands. She had even buried a wish bottle in the soil, with a note inside that read, To the love of my life, Julian, forever. And now Maria was telling him Candace herself had burned it down. What kind of joke was this? Maria saw his thunderous expression and, fearing his wrath, quickly explained. Sir, it's true, Mrs. Vance did it herself. She seemed to be in a very bad mood that day. You weren't home, and none of us dared to stop her. Hearing this, Julian immediately assumed Candace was angry at him for not coming home. His anger instantly dissipated. So where is she now? We don't know, sir. She didn't come home last night. He frowned. Why was Candace giving him the silent treatment this time? He pulled out his phone and called her. No answer. A flicker of annoyance started in his chest. A little anger was one thing, but being this stubborn, not coming home, not answering her phone, he was getting worried. He suppressed his irritation, took a deep breath, and adjusted his tone to its most gentle register before sending a text. Honey, why didn't you tell me you were angry? You have to tell me so I can make it up to you. What's the point of being angry all by yourself? If you get sick from it, I'm the one who's going to be heartbroken. He wasn't a man of empty words. After sending the text, he immediately ordered a custom high jewelry set, planning to present it as a peace offering when she returned. 5 minutes passed. Candace didn't reply. He grew uneasy and sent another. Honey, where are you? Send me your location, I'll come pick you up. After 15 minutes, still no reply. An hour later, he lit a cigarette. Candy, there's a limit to being stubborn. 2 hours later. If you don't answer, I'm going to get angry. 5 hours later, his anger had morphed into annoying anxiety. Honey, where are you? Please don't scare me like this. Still, only silence. He didn't know that Candace had already arrived at a top-secret international laboratory on the other side of the planet. Her position, lead scientist. Her security clearance, top secret. The moment she signed her employment contract, government agencies moved swiftly, and all traces of her former identity and life were systematically erased. Another hour passed with no word from Candace. Disappeared, kidnapped, a car accident. All sorts of terrible scenarios began to race through his mind. He tried to take a drink of water to calm down, but his hands were shaking so badly he couldn't hold the glass steady. With a trembling hand, he called his friend Nate. Chapter 15. Nate, I can't get in touch with my wife. You have connections in law enforcement, help me find her. Nate's end of the line was filled with the sound of music and laughter. Julian, what did you say? I can't hear you. I'm at that private lounge we went to the other day. Why don't you come over? We can talk in person. Summer's here too, by the way. Julian didn't hesitate for a second. He grabbed his car keys and bolted out the door. He slammed the accelerator to the floor, driving as if his life depended on it. When he burst into the room, his face slick with cold sweat, everyone fell silent. Even Summer didn't dare breathe too loudly. Nate, sensing something was seriously wrong, dismissed the women around him. "Julian, what's going on? Don't scare me, man. My wife didn't come home last night. She's not answering her phone or texts. I'm worried something happened to her. Help me get the police involved." Nate blinked, then let out a short laugh. "Is that all?" Julian's eyes were like daggers. He lunged forward and grabbed Nate by the collar. "What the hell are you laughing at? What kind of attitude is that? I told you to help me find my wife." "Whoa, let go, Julian, you and your damn temper." Nate was good-natured and knew that Julian without Candace was a man on the brink of death, so he didn't take it personally. "I know the city's crime stats like the back of my hand. There's no way it's a violent crime. And it's not a kidnapping, or you would have gotten a ransom call by now. Just calm down." Listening to Nate's logic, Julian cooled down slightly. "But Candy never gives me the silent treatment. I just feel like something's wrong." Nate had a nagging suspicion, but wasn't sure if he should voice it. Julian saw his hesitation. "Spit it out. Nothing is more important than finding my wife right now." Okay, this is just a guess, so don't fly off the handle." Nate took a breath. "I think it's more likely that she found out about you and Summer." "Impossible," Julian rejected it outright. Just yesterday, he was congratulating himself on how well he'd hidden everything, how he'd protected Candace from any pain. How could she possibly have found out? Nate patted his shoulder. "A woman's intuition is a powerful thing, man." Julian shook his head in denial. He would rather believe that something terrible had happened to Candace than accept that she knew about his affair. Because if something happened to her, he could follow her in death immediately. He could give up his own life, but he couldn't accept Candace not loving him anymore. Something must have happened. "I'm going to the police." He stood up, his usually proud frame now slumped and defeated. He took 2 steps, then stopped and slapped himself hard across the face, twice. "Nate, if something really did happen to my wife, I can't live either. My affairs are in your hands. Make sure they bury us together." The room was stunned into silence. Summer, seeing him like this, a mix of jealousy and pain in her heart, couldn't help but speak. "Mr. Vance, even if Candace is wonderful, she's just a woman. Is it really worth all this?" I'll always be with you. I love you," Julian cut her off sharply. "Shut up. What do you know? You think you're worthy of being mentioned in the same breath as my wife." His words were a brutal slap, grinding her dignity into the floor. Summer's face flushed with humiliation as everyone else's gaze turned on her, filled with contempt. "Hey, there's a purse here. I think that's Candy's, right? Wasn't she carrying that the other night?" "Julian, I think this is your wife's purse. Come look, there might be a clue inside." Julian spun around. It was Candace's purse. He rushed over, his heart pounding with renewed hope. "See, what was I so worried about? My wife is just playing a little scavenger hunt game with me." He muttered to himself as he unzipped the bag. "There's probably a clue inside for where to find her next. We've played these little games many times. Sorry for the drama, everyone." The bag was nearly empty. Inside was a pack of wet wipes, a hospital bill, and a few sheets of A4 paper. Julian pulled out the papers first, eagerly holding them up. At the top, 5 words, stark in black and white: "Divorce settlement agreement." Julian felt as if he'd been shot. The world went black for a second and he collapsed onto the sofa. Chapter 16. "Impossible, this," he laughed, handing the papers to the person next to him. "Look at this. My wife has such a sense of humor, don't you think?" Everyone exchanged uneasy glances, their faces filled with pity. "No, what's with those expressions? This is obviously a joke. Why do you all look like you feel sorry for me?" No one dared to speak. Julian's face fell. "Say something, tell me this is a joke my wife is playing on me?" He was in a state of complete denial, desperate for anyone to give him a sliver of hope, even a false one. Nate took the agreement from him and read it carefully. Julian pressed him. "You've read it? It's a joke, right? Tell me it's a joke." Looking into his friend's hopeful eyes, Nate felt a pang of pity. "Julian, she really does want a divorce, and she's known about you and Summer for a while. The reasons are all listed right here, clear as day." "You're full of shit," Julian grabbed Nate's collar again. "We're best friends, we've been through hell and back together. Are you lying to me too? Nate sighed, pried his hands off, and stood up. He folded the agreement and tucked it into Julian's suit pocket. You're not in a good state right now. I'm going to take everyone and leave. You need some time to cool off. Julian rested his elbows on his knees, burying his head in his hands, motionless. As everyone filed out, Summer refused to leave. She knelt at his feet, the picture of devotion. Julian, honey, don't be sad. You still have me? Julian slowly looked up, his eyes bloodshot. Get out. Undeterred, Summer tried her usual seductive tactics, leaning in to kiss him. Julian, I mean it, I love you. The people who leave you are the ones who don't love you. That old woman knew about us this whole time but kept it from you, and then she leaves the divorce papers in a public place. She's obviously trying to humiliate you. She doesn't love you. She doesn't understand you. She doesn't care about you. Julian let out a cold laugh and slowly raised his head. His handsome face, usually so full of affection for her, was now twisted with an icy hatred. An aura of pure danger emanated from him, like a demon summoned from hell. She suddenly felt a prickle of fear. I didn't mean anything by it. Julian didn't give her a chance to finish. He kicked her, sending her sprawling across the floor. He grabbed her by the hair, dragged her out of the room, and pointed a finger in her face. Did I give you the impression you had any importance? How dare you speak about Candy like that? You better hope I don't find out you did anything else to hurt her, or I swear to God, I will end you. With that, he slammed the door shut, locking himself inside. He paid no mind to Summer, who was left behind, crying and in too much pain to stand. He grabbed a bottle of red wine and started chugging it straight from the bottle. He drank so fast that the wine, mixed with his tears, streamed down his chin. He was filled with a soul-crushing regret. How could he have been so blind? Incidents from the past few weeks flashed through his mind. When Candace said she didn't like it wasn't the ring, it was him. Her lack of enthusiasm at the university wasn't because she felt sick, but because she knew about him and Summer. The flights she was looking at weren't for a vacation, they were for her escape. The flights a jolt went through him. He grabbed his phone and called his assistant. Chapter 17. My wife must have taken a flight. I need you to check every airline. You have to find a record of her flight. Hope surged through him again. He felt like the universe was giving him another chance. Whatever it took, whatever the cost, he would find Candace. This time, he would love her with his entire being. He would never make the same mistake again. He was a man of science. He'd never believed in gods or superstitions. But now, for the first time, he knelt on the floor and prayed, the shards of the broken wine bottle digging into his knees without him feeling a thing. Please, God, I'm begging you, let my Candy come back to me. As long as she comes back, I'll give up everything I have. As he pushed himself up, his hand pressed against the sofa. A corner of the cushion lifted, revealing a cell phone. But the heavens did not hear Julian's prayer. When his assistant returned, he didn't even dare to look up at Julian's thunderous expression. Julian fought to control his rage. Say it again. The assistant repeated timidly, Mr. Vance, we checked every airline. We couldn't find any flight records for Mrs. Vance. Julian pointed a shaking finger at the computer screen, his eyes wild with fury. The screen showed security footage of Candace entering the airport terminal. It clearly showed her walking in late at night to wait for a flight, and then never coming out. A living, breathing person walks in, and you're telling me you can't find her flight record. What, did she sprout wings and fly away herself? The assistant lowered his head further, too scared to speak. Julian's chest heaved, the hand holding his cigarette trembling. Forget it. More than blaming others, Julian hated himself. Candace's departure was his fault, and his alone. He handed the assistant a phone. This is my old phone. I lost it at the hotel the other night and just found it. It won't turn on. Take it to our tech department to get it fixed. Don't lose any of the data. The assistant quickly took it. Julian added, especially the photos of me and my wife, the call logs, everything. As he said the words, his heart felt like it was being hollowed out. He closed his eyes, fighting back the tears. He had a sinking feeling that he might never find Candace again, that he would never hear her voice or feel her touch. A desperate, maddening longing for her consumed him. He carefully took out a photo album from a drawer. Candace had made it by hand, filled with photos of them from their first date until this year. He had teased her about it when she was making it. Now, it was his most precious possession. He gently caressed the edge of the album and opened it with reverence. He remembered the first page. It was a photo a classmate had taken the day they officially became a couple. Candace, her long hair flowing, was smiling as she leaned against his chest. The memory of that happy day brought a warmth to his chest, and his lips curved into a faint smile. But as he smiled, tears began to fall. He raised his hand and slapped himself across the face, again and again. "Sir, stop," Maria cried out, her hand flying to her mouth. But Julian wouldn't stop, not until his handsome face was swollen and his lip was bleeding. Maria handed him a tissue. "Sir, please wipe your face." Julian looked up at her, his voice pleading. "Maria, you took care of my wife for so long. She must have been fond of you. If I can find her, will you help me beg her to forgive me?" Chapter 18. "Of course, sir, I will," Maria soothed. To distract him, she said, "Sir, look at the photos for now." Julian composed himself and, full of anticipation, opened the album cover. But the page that met his eyes was blank. A sharp pain pierced his heart. He roared. "Who took the photos? Who lost them?" Maria stammered. "Sir, this was Mrs. Vance's most precious thing. We would never dare to touch it." Julian was distraught. How could they be gone? His gaze drifted aimlessly around the room, lost, until it landed on the wall. His heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. The wedding portrait on the wall, it was gone too. His sharp gaze shot to Maria. She immediately explained, "Sir, we really don't know. A week ago, Mrs. Vance forbid us from going to the second floor. She was the one cleaning your room." A terrible premonition washed over Julian. He stumbled to Candace's walk-in closet and threw open the doors. As expected, it was completely empty. He refused to give up, running to her study. The bookshelves, once overflowing, were bare. Even the trash can was empty. Next was her art studio. The same result. Julian's throat tightened, and he fought to suppress a sob, his eyes turning a raw, painful red. Unwilling to accept the reality, he went from room to room, turning the entire mansion upside down. He refused to believe it. There had to be some trace of her left, but after searching every corner of the house, he found nothing. Not a single trace that she had ever lived there. She was like a single drop of water in the ocean, vanished completely from his life. Julian could no longer stand. He crumpled to the floor, his body shaking with repressed sobs. "Candy, where are you? Where are you?" Just then, Nate called. Julian answered as if grabbing a lifeline. "Nate, is it about Candy? Did you find something?" Nate hesitated, his voice heavy. "Julian, I used the name and social security number you gave me. I had my friend at the national database run a search, but we searched the entire country's records. A person named Candace Reed doesn't exist." Julian froze. Then he laughed. "You son of a bitch, you must have found her, right? This is a terrible joke to play on me." "Julian, I'm telling you the truth." Nate was baffled himself. A living person, completely vanished, not even a record in the system. Julian was silent for a few seconds, then he seemed to go mad, running to the garage. "So no one can find her, huh? Fine," he gritted his teeth, his resolve hardening. "I'll find her myself. I'll search every corner, every city. I'll search the ends of the earth to find my Candy." He reversed the car so aggressively the tires screeched, and the rear bumper slammed into the garage wall. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and the impact sent his chin crashing into the steering wheel. He barely felt the pain, just spat out a mouthful of blood. He drove, his eyes wide and wild, weaving through the streets of New York, desperately searching for any sign of Candace. The city was vast. He drove relentlessly, wiping away the blood from his mouth with a tissue. "Candy, where are you?" He screamed it in his mind. Come back and punish me. Hit me, scream at me, stab me with a knife, I don't care. Just come back." His mind drifted, and he didn't see the car speeding toward him until it was too late. Chapter 19. When Summer arrived at the emergency room, she saw Julian lying on a gurney, his hair matted, his body covered in blood. Her heart broke, and she threw herself on him, sobbing. "Julian, you scared me to death. I thought the car killed you," the doctor frowned. "Let's have some positive thoughts, young lady. It's just a compound fracture of the left arm. It's not that serious." Summer's heart ached with pity. She whispered, "Honey, does it hurt?" The doctor interjected. "Of course it hurts. The bone is sticking out. He's lucky, though. It was inches from being a head injury, and that would have been much worse. Miss, he's refusing treatment. You need to talk some sense into him." Julian, who had been silent, finally spoke, his voice cold. "I am not your husband, I am Candace Reed's husband." Hearing his icy, heartless words, Summer felt like a knife had been twisted in her gut. But she loved him too much. She loved him enough to swallow any and all pride. She could only beg. "Julian, why won't you let them treat you? What if you're permanently injured?" Julian's lips were a thin, stubborn line. He said nothing, because he had just found out that Candace had had a miscarriage. 10 minutes earlier. A nurse was cleaning Julian's wounds. She glanced at his face and said, "Hey, you look familiar. I've seen you on a patient's phone background. Is your wife's name Candace?" Julian's eyes lit up. He shot up and grabbed the nurse's shoulders, startling her. "You've seen my wife? You know my wife?" "I don't know her, but I've seen her. It's hard to forget a face that beautiful. Especially when someone that beautiful comes in all alone, in the middle of the night, for an abortion." An abortion. Julian felt all the strength drain from his body. He let go of the nurse and slid down the wall to the floor. Summer looked at the shell of a man before her, her heart breaking. "Julian, what's wrong? Please say something." Julian ignored her, his vacant eyes finding the nurse again. "Nurse, did my wife really have an abortion?" The nurse scoffed. "Why would I lie? The hospital has records. You can check them yourself when you're better. And let me tell you, your wife didn't just have an abortion. She was hit by a scooter, brought in unconscious. We had to use a defibrillator just to get her to sign the consent forms. Do you have any idea how painful that is? She was so thin, like a piece of paper. We were scared the shock would break her." Tears streamed from Julian's eyes. With his good hand, he started punching his own chest. "My Candy, she must have been in so much pain while she was lying alone on that cold operating table, having a piece of her torn away. He had been flirting with Summer, rolling around in bed with her. He wanted to die. He wanted to bash his head against the wall. Summer had assumed the secret of the miscarriage would be safe forever. She never imagined a nurse would blow her cover. Her heart hammered in her chest. "Julian, this nurse must be mistaken. Candace has always had health problems. She couldn't get pregnant, remember?" The nurse snapped back. "I'm not mistaken. I remember because her name was so lovely, and because her situation was so tragic. She could have tried to save the pregnancy, but we couldn't reach any family to sign the forms. Her condition worsened, and we had no choice but to terminate. We called you dozens of times. Why didn't you answer?" As she spoke, the nurse's eyes darted between Julian and Summer, and her expression curdled with disgust. She turned her back on them. Disgusting, a cheater and his home-wrecking whore. Chapter 20. Summer retorted, "You don't know anything. Julian and I are in love. Candace is the one who wasn't loved. She was the third wheel in our relationship." Julian roared. "Shut up." Summer flinched but fell silent. "Julian, I know Candace's miscarriage is devastating, but you can't neglect your own health." She reached out to touch his face. "You still have me. I'll never abandon you irresponsibly like she did. I'll always be by your side. I can give you children, 3 of them." Julian slowly turned his head to look at her. He knew it was twisted, but a part of him was grateful for her presence in that moment. Even though he had already decided he would never have any emotional or physical contact with her ever again. He said, "Summer, thank you." Summer couldn't believe her ears. Overjoyed, she threw her arms around him. "You never have to thank me, Julian. I'd do anything for you." Julian didn't respond, simply pushing her away. Summer continued, lost in her own fantasy. "I'll pack my things and move into the hospital to take care of you. I know with me here you'll get better." Just then, his assistant called. Julian answered. "What is it?" "Assistant. Mr. Vance, your old phone has been repaired. All the data has been restored. I only want to hear about things related to my wife." The assistant hesitated. They had all seen how infatuated Julian was with Summer. He wasn't sure who held more weight in Julian's heart now, and he didn't want to get on Summer's bad side. "Mr. Vance, if I tell you, please don't get angry. Stop wasting my time. If it's a clue about my wife, I don't care what it is. I won't be angry. In fact, there will be a reward." Hearing this, the assistant relaxed. So no matter how obsessed Julian was with Summer, his wife would always be the most important person to him. He took a deep breath and made his decision. "Mr. Vance, it's about Miss Summer." "Julian, what do you mean? Be clear." "Sir, the engineers recovered your data and found several text messages that Miss Summer sent to your wife, as well as a record of a missed call from your wife 3 days ago." Summer was still lost in her daydream of a happy life with Julian, chattering on, completely oblivious to the conversation. We'll get a double room in the hospital, so I can take care of you 24/7. And when your arm is healed, we'll go on a vacation to relax. I mean, honestly, Candace is so selfish. Even if the love was gone, you'd think there would be some affection left after all these years, right? To just leave like that, without a thought for how it would hurt you, I would never, ever leave you. And after the vacation, you'll be feeling better because I'll be there to cheer you up. Then we can get married. We won't live in the old house. We'll get a new one. The most important thing is that it has to have a big bathtub, since you love playing in the shower so much. Summer. Julian said her name. She thought her beautiful fantasy had finally won him over. She turned, her smile sweet and radiant. Yes, Julian. Chapter 21. Crack before Summer could process what was happening, a hand struck her face with the force of a freight train. Her ears rang, her vision blurred. Half her face instantly swelled to a grotesque purple, and blood trickled from the corner of her lip. She crumpled to the floor. Julian had used all his strength. Summer lay on the linoleum, the world spinning, acid rising in her throat. She could barely breathe, her chest rising and falling in shallow, weak spasms. But she struggled to lift her head, her voice a bewildered whisper. Julian, why? Julian lunged, his hand closing around her throat, and lifted her off the ground. He leaned in, his eyes blazing with a murderous rage, his entire being radiating a terrifying, lethal energy. Summer began to tremble, but her voice was still a soft, gentle murmur. You're injured. Don't get so angry. I'm worried about you. You told my wife about us. Summer's mind went blank, the trembling stopped. She looked up, her eyes filled with tears. So, you're this angry, you hit me like this just because I told her the truth? Julian. Yes. A sharp, violent pain tore through Summer's chest, as if she'd been shot through the heart, leaving a bloody, gaping wound. She instinctively reached out to wrap her arms around his neck, to try and placate him as she always had. You're just teasing me again, right? You love to mess with me. You bitch. Julian shoved her away with such force it was as if he was repulsed by her touch. That final push shattered Summer's self-deception. She closed her eyes and let out a dry, humorless laugh. Her indifferent attitude enraged Julian further. He stormed over and grabbed her by the throat again. You have the nerve to laugh? Didn't I tell you? Didn't I say not to let Candy know anything? Why are you so malicious? Summer's eyes rolled back in her head as she was choked, a hoarse gasping sound escaping her throat. Her hands flailed wildly in the air. A nurse ran out. What is going on here? I'm calling security. Julian took a deep breath and released her. Summer, her life spared, collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. Julian's voice was ice. What did you say to her? Summer answered with a question of her own. Did you ever love me? Julian roared. What the hell did you say to my wife? Summer's voice broke. Did you ever love me? Not even for a second. Not even a little bit. Not even for a single moment. She crawled over and knelt at his feet. Julian, say you love me? Even if it's a lie. Julian just stared at her coldly, as if she were an object, a piece of trash. No, Julian said. In my entire life, I have only ever loved one woman. And that is my wife. Summer froze completely. Then, as if all the strength had been drained from her, she went limp, collapsing onto the floor. Her hair was a mess, her gaze fixed on some distant, empty point. Passers-by stared, their faces filled with disgust and contempt. Summer didn't notice. She began to speak to herself. The first time I saw you, you were with Candace at the university, donating to a scholarship fund. You were so gentle with her. I thought, I want to find a man like that someday. So handsome, so devoted. So when we got together, I felt like the luckiest girl, the happiest woman in the world. Chapter 22. She rambled on like a madwoman. Julian, you were my first love, my first kiss, my first time. I loved you so much, and you're telling me you never loved me back. Listening to her, Julian's mind was on another woman. His wife, Candace. Wasn't he also her first love, her first kiss, her first time? He had sworn to make her happy. And what had he done? With a final shred of hope, Summer asked, Then what was I to you? Julian's heart was filled with a searing hatred for her. His voice was flat. Before you were a plaything. Now you are my enemy. Summer closed her eyes, a bitter smile twisting her lips. The last glimmer of light in her world went out. Julian, I want you to tell me, word for word, everything you said to my wife. Summer just laughed. I just told her the truth. I told her about us. For example, how you gave me the ring she never had. How you only gave her the asteroid out of guilt because you had just slept with me. How you were so rough with me in bed, you ripped 2 of my dresses and we used a whole box of condoms. Each of Summer's words was a dagger, stabbing into Julian's heart. His hands shook uncontrollably. No wonder Candace had left. He couldn't begin to imagine the pain she must have felt, hearing these things. He grabbed Summer by the hair and dragged her out of the hospital. He took her to a private, off-the-books correctional facility and threw her at the feet of the warden. Lock her up. Whatever happens to her after this, do not intervene. Yes, Mr. Vance, Summer beat on the bars in terror. She knew exactly how horrific these places were. Julian was sentencing her to death. Julian, what are you doing? What are you going to do to me? Let me out, this is illegal, you know that, let me out. Julian ignored her, turning and walking away. Desperate, Summer's body shaking like a leaf, she screamed. Julian, I'm pregnant, I'm carrying your child. Julian stopped. The warden asked, should we let her out, Mr. Vance? Julian shook his head. A child. Good. A perfect atonement for Candace and their unborn baby. Only Candace was worthy of carrying his child. Only their child would have been a product of love. When Summer saw him shake his head, she went completely insane. She shrieked. Julian, you think punishing me will ease your conscience. Let me tell you, you are nothing but a pathetic, cowardly bastard. The only one who truly hurt Candace was you. You think you love her. Ha, what a joke. If you really loved her, you would have fought your way out of my bed, even if I had drugged you, but in reality, you couldn't get enough of me, could you? And you still think you love her. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. The warden cracked a whip across her back. Shut your damn mouth. Summer's pretty face was instantly marred by a bleeding gash, her looks ruined forever. But Julian nodded. She's right. Summer deserved to be punished, but he was not blameless. And he would punish himself 1,000 times more severely. Chapter 23. Julian recorded an apology video. In the video, his once handsome, commanding face was gaunt and haggard. His strong, athletic frame was so thin his collarbones jutted out sharply. The raw, white bone of his fractured arm was visible through the wound. Every slight movement sent a wave of agonizing pain through him, but he barely flinched. All of this pain he deserved. He knelt on the floor, facing the camera, and confessed, his voice heavy with remorse. Candy, my wife, I don't know where you are, but I was wrong. I am so sorry. They say a cheater should swallow 1,000 needles, but what I feel now is worse than that. I've cut ties with Summer completely. From now on, there will never be another woman in my life. I know you may never forgive me, but if you see this video, all I ask is that you give me a call or send a text just to let me know you're safe. For the rest of my life, I will use every breath I have to atone for what I've done. He posted the video online. He didn't know where Candace was, but on the internet, she would see it eventually. The video caused an uproar. He and Candace had been seen as the golden couple of the business world, with a massive online following. The comments were a flood of vitriol. What kind of an idiot is this? He had a wife like Candace and he still cheated. He was in a car crash, right? Too bad it didn't kill him. Cheaters can go to hell. My heart breaks for Candace. To be cheated on like that, and the other woman isn't even half as beautiful as her. The man must be blind. News of Summer's affair reached her family. Her mother had a heart attack on the spot. Her father publicly disowned her. Their family was ostracized, and her parents could never hold their heads high in their community again. Julian fared no better. His company's stock plummeted in the wake of the scandal, teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. Nate was furious. You want to atone? Go find her and atone in person. Why would you post an apology video? Are you trying to destroy your reputation, your fortune? Julian gave a bitter laugh. What's the point of money without my wife? I only earned it to spend it on her. Nate threw his hands up. You're an idiot. Julian grabbed his friend's hand, his eyes serious. Be good to your wife, Nate. Don't be like me. He chugged half a bottle of liquor. Don't be like me, don't be like me. He had hoped that after posting the video, Candace would contact him. She had always been so soft-hearted with him. But 2 weeks passed, and there was still nothing. He fell into complete despair. He pulled up the security footage of Candace entering the airport and watched it over and over. He noticed she had carried nothing with her. She had just left, clean and clinical. Her face was blank. Her eyes were empty. There was no hope for him there. He suddenly felt that without Candace, his life had no meaning. "Candy," he sobbed, "if I died, would you come back for my funeral, just to see me one last time?" No one answered. He stood up and stumbled to the balcony, and leaped. Chapter 24. Julian saw Candace again. She was wearing the same white dress she wore the day they first met, looking like a pure, perfect jasmine flower. She called his name, her voice soft and gentle. "Julian!" He couldn't believe his eyes. He ran to her, wrapping her in a tight embrace. But the moment he touched her, she dissolved into a cloud of smoke. "Candy," he screamed and shot awake. Nate was by his side. "Julian, you're finally awake." Julian looked around and realized he was in a hospital. Nate was fuming. "A 4-story villa and you just jump. Are you trying to kill yourself? All for a woman, is it really worth it?" Julian lowered his eyes. "You shouldn't have saved me." Nate exploded. "Don't you dare say that shit again," Julian asked. "How long was I out? Is there any news about Candy?" Nate's anger softened into pity. "You just got out of surgery. There's no news." The word surgery made Julian aware of a strange sensation in his lower body. He instinctively threw back the covers. Nate lit a cigarette. "Don't look, your left leg was amputated. The doctors did everything they can, but you'd sent all the staff away. No one found you right away. You lost too much blood, and everything below the knee was necrotic. They had to take it." Julian seemed not to hear, his face devoid of expression. "Did you hear me? Julian, you're disabled now. Can you give me some kind of reaction?" Nate was on the verge of losing it. Julian slowly turned his head. "I was just thinking, what hurts more, amputation or an abortion?" Nate knew then that Julian was truly lost. He finished his cigarette before delivering the final blow. "Your affair blew up so big, the market lost all faith in you. Apex stock hit rock bottom, you're bankrupt." Julian just nodded. "Nate, have you ever heard the saying?" "What?" "A man who wrongs his wife will lose all his fortune." "That's just superstition." Julian shook his head. "No, I'm living proof. Everything that's happening to me now, it's karma. It's my punishment for what I did to Candy." After Julian was discharged from the hospital, searching for Candace became his only purpose in life. Bankruptcy had stripped him of all his assets. With only one leg, he hobbled on crutches, searching street by street. He wore a cardboard sign around his neck with a picture of Candace, clipped from the security footage. "Looking for my beloved wife, Candace." People on the street pointed and stared. "Look at that homeless guy. He's so handsome. Why is a handsome guy begging? Is this for a social media video?" Someone in the know explained. "You don't know. That's the former founder and CEO of Apex Dynamics. Of course he's handsome, but he's a total scumbag. Cheated on his wife with his assistant. The wife left him, and now it's too late for regrets." The passerby spat on the ground. "Scumbags can go to hell." Chapter 25. Candace's research in her new country was a resounding success. She was partnered with her former mentor. When they published their findings, her mentor was incredibly proud, but also a little regretful. "Phoenix, my dear, if you hadn't got married, if you had dedicated yourself to your research from the start, this discovery could have been made 5, maybe even 7 years earlier." Phoenix was Candace's new name. After shedding her old identity, she had chosen it for herself. The phoenix, the bird of legend that rises from the ashes, reborn from death. Her heart was at peace now. She could look back on her past and smile. "Professor, let's just consider it a necessary part of growing up. Marriage, in its own way, helps one grow." The truth was, she hadn't recovered from Julian's betrayal overnight. For countless nights, she had cried herself to sleep and woken up crying. She had resented Julian for treating her like a fool, for making her feel worthless. Eventually, she had poured her entire being into her research, and slowly, she had healed. Life, after all, wasn't just about love and marriage. No matter who left, who betrayed you, the one left behind had to find the courage to move forward. Her mentor listened, his heart filled with a mix of pity and pride. "Phoenix, you truly are my most brilliant student." Candace had lived and worked in anonymity for 3 years. In that time, the scandal that had once consumed her and Julian online had faded from public memory. With her groundbreaking results published, she could finally step back into the light. Her discovery was world-renowned. As the sole lead researcher, she was mobbed by reporters at the press conference. She smiled and answered each question with grace. The pain hadn't diminished her beauty, Instead, it had given her a profound sense of calm and wisdom. After the scientific questions, the reporters inevitably turned to her personal life. Dr. Thorne, have you always been so dedicated to your research? Is there a partner in your life? Phoenix smiled. My research is my life. But will you consider a personal life? You are so brilliant and so beautiful. Phoenix thought for a moment. I once had a very deep and meaningful relationship that ended in failure. It was a difficult blow, she said, her eyes clear with no trace of past sorrows. But if you're asking me if I'll consider it again, I've never been one to be defeated by failure. So, my thoughts on a future relationship are this: I will always remain hopeful. But if it's not meant to be, I can live a very brilliant life all on my own. The press conference was broadcast on major networks worldwide. The name Phoenix Thorne and her face became famous overnight. Julian was out on his daily search when a passerby mocked him. Hey, Beggar, why do you have a picture of Phoenix Thorne on your sign? You think she's your wife or something? Julian, looking frail and near death, mumbled, Who's Phoenix? This is my wife, Candace. The person showed him their phone. Look, the woman in your picture looks just like the famous scientist, Phoenix Thorne. Julian stared at the screen. A flicker of light returned to his dull eyes. On the screen, it was her. It was definitely Candace. He had held her in his arms for thousands of nights. He could never mistake her. Ah, she is. Suddenly, the words caught in his throat. He looked down at himself, a disabled beggar. And her, so brilliant, radiating charisma and strength. He was no longer worthy of her. No, from the moment he had cheated, he had never been worthy of a woman as loyal and true as Candace. He hung his head and tore the picture from his sign. The passerby laughed. Look at this guy, he's hilarious. Actually thought the great Dr. Thorne was his wife. Julian didn't hear the ridicule. He just turned and hobbled away in silence. Candace was safe. She was thriving. His purpose was fulfilled. It was time to let go, to turn away. His love had come too late.